Sorry, that's just anti-trans.
So let's see what this person is saying. This is amethysta herrick. Ooh, 712 subscribers. I'm catching up to you. Watch out. Anyway, yeah. So this is called the autogynephilia myth, transphobia's favorite lie. So let's see how it gets framed, I guess. Let's have a look.
Hi, kitty cats. It's time to address one of the more ludicrous explanations for the transgender experience that is still undermining the validity of transgender identities.
Can I say something? Gender professor that comes out straight away with hi kitty cats. It's not the most professional thing. But hey, that's just my opinion. You know, if you enjoy it, then you do you, I guess.
I'm talking about autogynephilia. Autogynephilia is a concept originally developed by Ray Blanchard in the 1980s to attempt to explain transgender women, that is, people assigned male at birth who identified as women. Despite a startling lack of evidence, as well as being condemned by WPATH, the
condemned by WPATH, that is basically meaningless to me. Of course WPATH don't like it. Sorry, it was on really fast. I'm just gonna go back slightly.
By Ray Blanchard in the 1980s to attempt to explain transgender women, that is, people assigned male at birth who identified as women. Despite a startling lack of evidence, as well as being condemned by WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health.
I should start every stream with hi kitty cats. If I ever want to be put on a list, then maybe I will. Yeah, I don't trust WPATH. That's basically like saying the transgender cult doesn't... Listen, it's not that every trans person is in a cult. It's that specific kind of worldview that someone like this and people like WPATH kind of push a lot. But it's like asking those people, yeah, of course they're going to fucking debunk it because it's not what they're saying. They want to be the ones that are right, obviously. It's like if Palestine comes up with a theory and then you ask Israel what they think about it. Israel are probably going to shit on it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like WPATH shitting on someone else's theory is like what you expect. It's like, obviously they would do this.
Autogynephilia still appears in the DSM-5 as a specifier to psychiatric disorders.
Oh, good. So they didn't really take WPATH's into consideration. So that's good. That's a good approach, in my opinion.
And as a result, autogynephilia still represents a weapon leveled at trans.
Plenty of WPATH literally are trans people. They get transed and then they want to do it to other people, I guess. Or they were... I don't know. I guess I need to look into more of their stories and stuff because I actually don't know. I don't know too much, but it's a bit strange. I think it's not that I don't think there should be trans input, but there's such thing as being too close to something, if you know what I mean. It's like two wolves and a sheep deciding on what's for dinner. Yeah, it often feels that way.
Transgender women such as myself in discussion today. So what is autogynephilia? Let's start just by breaking the word down into parts. Philia is the love of an object. Gyna is pertaining to the female reproductive system. And auto means applying something to
the patients who run in the asylum. Yeah. I mean, well, you hear the term patient-led care all the time. And the notion of the patients wanting to dictate their care and stuff. And that's very common in the trans space. So it kind of, it tracks, it goes all the way down.
To oneself. So the meaning of the word autogynephilia is a love so great for the female reproductive system, a person wants one for themselves.
I don't know if that's exactly true, but I mean, I've always seen it as more the image or thought of being a woman, imagining yourself as a female. I think she's possibly stating it in a funny way. I don't know why you wouldn't just kind of put it in a straight kind of way so that you don't seem like you're biased. But I guess, you might as well go for broke at this point, so.
So the meaning of the word autogynephilia is a love so great for the female reproductive system, a person wants one for themselves.
Yeah, autogynephilia just sounds more like a woman jerking off or something,
This concept immediately
You don't jerk off if you're a woman. You get what I mean. Sorry, I'm a male. I don't really know the terms and stuff. ROG cohort, whether or not you agree with Trial Littman. And that cohort was a new group that wasn't previously known. I'll need to look into the Shreya stuff because I'm not actually too familiar.
Reduces transgender identity to physical structure alone. It ignores the cognitive, the behavioral, the social.
yeah, it's really weird. Like, they want one for themselves. I'm sure that is not like an honest representative. Like, I don't want to keep skipping back, but it's like, I need to make sure that I'm getting the stuff that they're saying correct. I'm not trying to be like, oh, you're saying words that aren't the words I want you to say, and that's dumb. It's like, I'm supposed to actually be listening, but it's like, sometimes people say stuff that's so like bizarre that I'm just like, I don't know, surely I'm missing something. I look at new words that no one ever, perhaps she's a bit thick.
The meaning of the word autogynephilia is a love so great for the female reproductive system, a person wants one for themselves.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's how it's defined. I think there needs to be some kind of commonality to words occasionally. You know what I mean? Or there might as well be two versions of English at that point.
This concept immediately reduces transgender identity.
Because, yeah, straight away, if that's the premise you're starting on, it's already faulty. It's like this whole thing is going to be a bit broken unless you kind of start again with a different premise and do that as well. But hey, this person's a professor. I'm a nobody. I'm an idiot that makes music in my little spare room. You know what I'm saying? So I should be listening to this and taking it in, you know, and understanding, being educated, because no one wants to hear my voice, you know.
To physical structure alone. It ignores the cognitive, the behavioral, the social aspects of the overall human experience. And worse, autogynephilia turns transgender women into fetishists, who are then fetishized themselves. If Blanchard's theory is true, it ignores the cognitive, the behavioral, turns transgender women into...
It's too late. I think I'm becoming one of them. I'm going to get some hair dye in a bit.
...to fetishists, who are then fetishized themselves.
Reduces them to fetishists. I mean, yeah, I guess. Like, but like reduces them to? Like, I don't know. Isn't everything, like, is anything not reducing people to X, Y, or Z? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I hear this argument like so much. It feels like everyone reduces things on every side, and you probably do reduce things an awful lot when you speak for like brevity and shit. These people more than anyone. I make music, but I know more than Prof does here. Yeah, probably. Listen, I've realized that things like qualifications and having read shit tons of books doesn't actually necessarily mean that they're intelligent. Like, it means they've read a lot. Maybe they understand concepts well, but the way they apply them is dog shit. But then the way she's expressed the concept so far is completely broken. So like, I don't know. This seems like what I expect from like any trans bread tuber, to like make a dishonest version of the thing and then just kind of propagandize against it for that purpose. Like, hey, this is wrong. You know, don't look at the part where I changed it behind my back when you weren't looking. You know what I mean?
Ilya turns transgender women into fetishists, who are then fetishized themselves.
Who are then fetishized themselves. I guess. I mean, again, there's fetishes for fucking everything, unfortunately.
If Blanchard's theory is true, it should also imply that human masculinity is only about fetishizing women. And
human masculinity is also only about fetishizing women. Why?
Who are then fetishized themselves. If Blanchard's theory is true, it should also imply that human masculinity is only about fetishizing women. True, it should also imply that human masculinity is only about fetishizing women.
No, I'm really not. I'm just gonna keep playing and think about that more, because what? I don't know. Modern feminist perspective, the male gaze.
And conversely, that typical human femininity is only about fetishizing men.
Wait, why would that be true? What does he have to say about like females, really?
The full spectrum of the human experience becomes only pursuit of a sex act.
I don't think this is a bit of a stretch. We haven't really gotten to any of the sort of more basic arguments, and now we're going like We're going into space.
Femininity is only about fetishizing men. The full spectrum of the human experience becomes only pursuit of a sex act.
Like, how so? Are you going to explain this? I fucking hope so, because it's like half the video.
Autogynephilia, and its contraction to AGP, is now used...
No, this is a new sentence. Like, you just state that. Like, this is so easy. Like, I say this so often. It's so easy to just say any combination of words that are, like, affirming. Okay, I think some people have actually, there's a couple of people arguing with that. I'll have a quick look at a couple of them afterwards.
Used pejoratively to describe trans...
It is used pejoratively, but it's only really ever going to be taken pejoratively. And I don't know, it's like a branding issue, right? Like, if you tell someone that, you know, the way you are is quite possibly because of a fetish, they're probably not going to take that in the best way, you know? Like, I don't know, you work in a shoe shop because you have a foot fetish. Like, they probably don't want to be made out like they have a foot fetish because that's just weird. I don't know, it's just not a good, it's not a good look, so I can see exactly why it's like stigmatized the way it is. I think there's no getting around it, really.
Philia, and its contraction to AGP, is now used pejoratively to describe transgender women. It's become a shortcut to dismiss a long, difficult act of introspection.
I mean, if that's even what it is it a long, difficult act of introspection for like everyone? I'm not sure about that.
And action, and replace it with a nebulous sexual connotation.
Well, I mean, it feels fucking nebulous as fuck to me too. But that's because you've not explained it properly at all. And what you have explained has been completely wrong. So it's just, here's this thing, it's shit. It's insulting. Freud could never have dreamt this up. Here's a couple more ways I can slag this thing off. Okay, bye. Like, great content. Amazing.
Freud could never have dreamt up. But identity is not solely about sexual arousal. Identity is not solely about physical structure.
I don't want to know what identity isn't solely about. I'd much rather know what it is. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that I identify as any. I don't actively identify, you know what I mean? So, like, I need a bit more explanation, but we just go straight back to it. It's like, well, it's just what people identify as. Well, that's great. Then anyone can call themselves anything.
Or genitalia or otherwise. Identity is a complex of how we look, how we think, how we feel, how we act, and how we express those characteristics within our social environment. I
mean, surely identity is like completely internal. I mean, I guess it drives everything, but like, that's just kind of conscious thought, I guess, to an extent. I don't know. I'm really trying to square all this like gender identity shit, but it's hard not to just be like, you're just making stuff up. Just admit that. A bit like I'm making stuff up saying, oh, I'm a woman, like when I was born like male, you know what I mean?
And how we express those characteristics within our social environment. When Blanchard introduced his concept of autogynephilia, he did not introduce a new theory of gender or a new theory of identity. What he did was attack...
Yeah, because you only want people to define it on your terms and basically arrive at the same fucking conclusions as you. That's what it sounds like. I mean, you gave like a bunk version of it and like that's about it. Ah, Jesus Christ. I mean, we can make out that everything's an attack if we want to. It's just ridiculous.
Attack the transgender experience. Autogynephilia intends to pathologize the normal human experience.
Intends to, like, Jesus Christ. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about the wanting a female reproductive sex, fucking whatever, a female reproductive female reproductive system. Female reproductive system. I don't know that it's more about that than just like the image and like the dressing up and like, I don't know, because most people when they look at like what they would call like an AGP. It's like people all in like the fetish kind of shit. And that's way more to do with like just the gender kind of aspect than what you've got in your pants or whatever, unless that's part of it. I don't know. It's so hard for me to relate to because I'm just not one of those like fetishist kinds, you know? So I don't really know what the mindset is like.
Of discovering and manifesting our identity and gender. So if you hear the word autogynephilia,
discovering and manifesting, as in like, yeah, we do manifest it ourselves. Like we manufacture it ourselves, basically. Do we not? Like, I'm happy to be like proven that actually this is like super real and whatever, but I just don't feel it. And like, to me, it makes more sense that I just have gender dysphoria. I don't know where the identity component of gender dysphoria is. It's just, I don't like being this sex or this gender or whatever. And like all the stuff about it feels wrong to me. And the other one feels better to me. But hey, I don't know. There's so much like over complication of all of it. And it just has made it make way less sense to me, if anything.
Discovering and manifesting our identity and gender. So if you hear the word autogynephilia in discussion about gender, you can be sure the speaker intends not to respect.
Yeah, and then you can just write off anyone that's talking about anything. I've said the word autogynephilia probably today, so you just write me off, I guess. Thanks, gee. How old is this person? It's a very childish mentality. I mean, they look older than me. They might not be at this point. I'm getting to that point, you know. But these like childish mentalities, I notice them so often. And we want to like be able to completely cancel anything we don't like out of like discussion and anything like that. Just like we do with like fucking sex. You know what I mean?
Any experience outside the cisgender, heteronormative experience.
God, this is like snaky as fuck. I can see the smile on your face. I know what you're doing. It's so fucking obvious.
And then I recommend you leave the immediate area as quickly as possible.
Yeah, run away from anyone wanting to fucking talk about anything.
For an inclusive and complete theory of identity and gender.
You've just excluded people. You're excluding people, and now you're saying for an inclusive theory.
I invite you to watch my presentation, Sex versus Gender, on my theory of gender as a mediator. And for a real look into the transgender...
Maybe I should watch that, actually. I do need as many insights as I can to like trans people and like gender and sex and stuff.
Gender experience. I invite you to view my playlist.
Because I just don't relate to any of it at all. I don't know how you come about this kind of thing other than meeting other people with this kind of thought process and doing whatever, you know.
Playlist Ami in Thailand, which documents my life leading up to gender affirming surgery in July 2024. You can find both by clicking the link in my bio.
Yeah, we all need to make sure we document our surgery and stuff like that, I guess.
Now please like this video and follow me for further transgender education.
Whoa, she said like this video and then it lit up. Does it like notice when you say that, or is there a feature? That's crazy. Yeah, I think they had surgery in Thailand. This is one of the people that I'm subscribed to, so I see the odd like thumbnail come up here and there. So I don't think they're actually in Thailand, but they were for the surgery.
That treats the transgender.
And hey, I could actually be wrong with that because I do not actually know this person, just to be clear.
Gender is only human.
Amethysta herrick, there you go. I think a lot more depth is needed. And it feels very like pandery. It feels like it's a bit too obvious that someone's coming at it from one side of the aisle, you know what I mean? I think if we stop doing that so much, we might reach more people, but we're kind of talking to ourselves. We're kind of preaching to the choir, a lot of these like trans these kind of people. Software engineer. Yeah, of course. When are they ever not? Apart from me, I'm not a software engineer. My dad is, I think. Yeah, some people go to like other countries and stuff for surgeries. I think facial surgery is quite common for British people to go elsewhere because it's just super rare. I need something different to this. Hang on. Like, I look at that Ray Alex Williams guy, actually. Yeah, so this guy is Ray Alex Williams, who's a detransitioner who, well, purports to have AGP. I'll see you later, Sam. But yeah, the videos I've seen, the last one I was quite critical of, but in general, I like his videos. He seems like a nice guy and stuff. So nothing like bad to say. I just don't agree with everything. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll get some more insights, I hope.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray, and today I'm going to be talking about autogynephilia. I thought it would be appropriate to be wearing makeup for this video topic. I didn't actually put this makeup on for the express purpose of this video, but I went to a Halloween concert last night and I dressed up as a e-girl, I didn't take my makeup off last night, so I kind of woke up with it still on. And, given the topic of autogynephilia, I thought it would be, fitting for me to do the video wearing the makeup because it's topically relevant. And I have alluded to this concept of autogynephilia in previous videos when I talked about why I transitioned, and other videos where I talk about, cross-dressing, cross-gender fantasy, and the sort of paraphilic or fetishistic aspect associated with such cross-dressing, and how that tied into my gender issues, if you could call them that, and why I transitioned in the first place, and kind of my early
I wonder if he's like hanging or something. Kind of funny, I don't know.
Childhood experiences of being fascinated with femininity and women's clothing, etc. So for those that don't know what autogynephilia is, it is essentially a theoretical construct developed by certain sexologists who study sex, and it is a theoretical construct that was originally used as a explanation of why some trans women transition. Like, what is the causal origin of those desires to transition? And according to the
Who's Wendy Adams? I'm not familiar.
The theory, there are two reasons why.
By the way, have you liked the stream? You should like the stream.
Trans women transition. And I'm not going to go into the two reasons in great detail, but one of the reasons that was postulated in this theoretical construct was that, autogynephilia is one of the driving forces of why at least some trans women transition. And so if you're confused by the word, autogynephilia essentially means love of oneself as a woman. So the idea is that
yeah, so me personally, I don't see what this necessarily has to do with like reproductive organs specifically, but hey.
You are essentially turned on or aroused or, have some erotic pleasure from the thought of oneself as a woman. And
oh, like Wednesday Addams. Oh, I see.
I'm not going to go into super details about this, but that kind of thought, thinking of oneself as a woman, that can be broken down in various ways. For some people, that thought of a woman includes, it's like you're desirous of, having the anatomy of a woman, or, being treated by a man sexually as if one was a woman. Or for others, it's about the clothing of women. For others, it's about being perceived as a woman, or it's about behaving as a woman, or or in many cases, it's a mixture combination of all these various aspects of thinking of oneself as a woman. And as the theory goes, that is tied into your sexuality in some way or another. And this was sort of originally conceived as a paraphilia or a fetish, but the researchers behind this concept, they sort of elaborated later on, and they really reconceptualized it as more like a sexual orientation. And it's really like a variant of heterosexuality insofar as you are attracted to femininity usually, but that attraction to femininity gets turned inwards so that you're attracted to femininity in yourself. And, that attraction to femininity in yourself, gets manifested in various ways. For some, it's like I said, it's like, the thought of that anatomy or behavior or clothing or expression, etc. And the theory of autogynephilia is that for some people who have this condition, that, sexual orientation or that, arousal pattern is so intense that the only way to deal with it psychologically is to transition. And this is, so social transition or medical transition, surgery, hormones, etc. And, that was certainly true in my case. And where this theory gets really controversial is, sort of people saying, they like don't like the idea that this is like the explanation of why most trans women transition, because they think it's very reductionistic. They think it, sort of delegitimizes, the concept of transness in some way. Or
I want to be clear on something. I don't care about the whole delegitimizing thing. Like, I fully believe it exists. I don't care if it delegitimizes anything. Like, oh, actually, I didn't transition because I wanted to be a girl since I was 5. Instead, I have autogynephilia. Like, I just don't really care about that. But yeah, I guess I see more how people don't like it because it's assuming they have some kind of fetish, which, if you're not that kind of person, people shouldn't assume that about you, right?
Or another, or that, if autogynephilia was at the root of one's transition, then, somehow or another, that would sort of invalidate your identity as a...
Because this is like kind of cope, basically. This seems like a kind of argument you could use against anything you don't like, if that makes sense. So, because autogynephilia, it's not a very convenient thing because it's about fetishes and stuff, and we already get kind of stereotyped in that way. Like, we can just say, oh, well, that's transphobic, that's like making us look bad, and like we can always use that against anything that we don't like, and I don't like the idea of that. I think ultimately the truth is going to be the truth no matter what makes people feel good, and you can't really rid the world of anything that doesn't make you feel good.
A woman or something like that. And I really want to do my best to steer clear of some of the more controversial aspects of this theory. And the like controversial aspect is saying that this is true of like most trans women or something like that. That's kind of the controversial thing, is when you say that like this theory or this construct or this
yeah, we shouldn't like hide from the truth or use something as like a shield against the truth because you can't handle it. Like, ultimately it is on the person to handle it. And if it's all about just saying that you're a woman at all costs, then yeah, people will play along, but not everyone will. And there's a very like easy and obvious reason as to why that is, if you know what I mean, which they're just not admitting to themselves. Like, you gotta be able to admit that your sex is real, you know what I mean? Like, that's very basic. Otherwise it starts to seem like delusion, and if people want to be deluded, that's on them, I guess. For me it's not satisfying to just pretend that anything I don't like isn't real.
Phenomenon is what's driving trans women to transition, and I'm going to sort of not make that claim. What I'm going to do instead is say that the theory, as it's been articulated, is true of my own case. So I don't really want to make any blanket statements about, autogynephilia is like, it's like the leading causal factor in why trans women transition. I'm not going to make that statement. The statement I'm going to make is that the theory is true in regards to my own life and what drives, a lot of my behavior and my thinking processes and what drove me to transition. So that's all I want to say.
I'm so sorry. You're trying to quit.
Say is that it's true about my own life. And, that in itself is controversial because people will say that like by giving validity to the theory, it's, transphobic or, invalidating of the reality of transness. But, or people think that like, well, if you have AGP.
Okay, those sounds are coming on the video, fair enough. I keep thinking it's like here, but like the window's shut now, so like really shouldn't be that loud out there.
Then, you no longer have a valid reason to transition. But Ray Blanchard, who, came up with this construct, he thought that it didn't really have any bearing.
Oh, right, fair enough. Is it that kind of ODD thing? I think I get that. I don't like being told what to do. My instinct is always to do the opposite,
On the question of whether transition is an appropriate clinical treatment for these feelings. He was just interested in like the causal origins of the phenomenon of being trans. So the fact that
most trans women are AGP, Mary is very likely AGP, statistically speaking, an AGP is okay. I don't know if I'd say most. I think I would need to see a lot more kind of evidence. And the thing with like AGP is I actually kind of am supporting your what you're saying in a way to say that there's more people with it than we're going to know, because people aren't going to say they have it, because it's the kind of thing that people would find embarrassing to admit. And I mean, I get it. Like, I don't think I'm an AGP personally, but yeah, I don't know. It encompasses a whole lot more. Yeah, it seems to, I guess. It's weird. Like it's more than just the fetish, I guess, because there's the whole typology thing, blah blah blah. I don't know. I guess we're learning as we're going. So as you're engaging with Ray's content, yeah, in general, I like his content. I definitely don't agree with him on everything, but that's partly why I'm watching it, because I do like some of the autogynephilia stuff. I agree it exists, and I agree that it's definitely out there, possibly in more people than I even think. But like, it's more the typology stuff I start to get a bit kind of, because even he's saying it there, like, it's absolutely not him saying that all trans people are AGP, or like most people are. But like, I don't know, I'm still learning. But yeah, in general, I like his content, and it's cool that people are able to like come out and talk about their experiences. And it probably sucks that I imagine this guy gets a fair amount of people like telling him he's pretending or something, which, hey, anyone could be pretending. I could be a fucking literal man. I've never had fucking surgery and all that, so. Are AGPs attracted to the sex they emulate? Well, that sex would always be female, because it's like autogynephilia, if that makes sense.
He thought that autogynephilia was the causal origin of one's transness. He in no way thought that sort of, contraindicated the appropriateness of transition as a medical response to this, because...
See, like, this is absolutely fine, and this isn't really stuff I'm questioning. Like, even if AGP exists, it doesn't make trans less valid. I guess that's fine, but like, okay. This isn't a criticism on him, to be clear. Like, this is probably the kind of shit that he hears all the time, so it's fair enough. That percentage of AGPs have always been to men due to bisexuality. I'll have to look more into that. There are no opposite for women. I'm not aware of, what would it be? Autoandrophilia? I don't know. I'm not aware of that being a thing, but then, I don't know. I guess guys in general are more sexual creatures or something. Autoandrophilia. Yeah, I got it right. See, I'm great at this.
For some people, these AGP feelings can be so debilitating insofar as they kind of take over your life. And, if you just try and repress them, just bury them inside yourself, that like leads to psychological distress. And, a way to sort of deal with the feelings is to transition. So, and that's certainly what I did in my own life. Like, I had been dealing with these feelings for, since a young boy. And it got to the point where, it just became overwhelming in my life. And I didn't really...
How can one decide that most women are AGP? Can you tell by looking at someone? Yeah, of course you can't. It's gonna be one of those things where there's more than would ever be reported if it was such a thing that were reported, because a lot of people just wouldn't say they are. And the other thing is, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'm into talking about this kind of stuff. I do want to like educate myself as much as I can first, but yeah, I mean, hey, if you're ever talking about trans shit, then feel free. Like, yeah, it's good to hear from you as well. But yeah, with the AGP thing, like, you can't tell by looking at anyone. Like, they'd have to tell you, and not many people are going to tell you that kind of thing, and not many people are going to tell anyone, including themselves, that thing. Like, sex shit is the kind of thing we do, like, repress if it feels like wrong and stuff. So I don't know. It's always going to be difficult to completely like legitimize this theory, I guess, but it's extremely hard to say it doesn't exist at the same time, because like these kind of paraphilias, there seems to be so many of them, and people seem to be into so much like weird shit, you know
of any other way to deal with those feelings other.
To be honest, LGBT stuff, like, until recently, I didn't so much either, so I'm more interested in it now, because it's like, well, what have people been watching this whole time?
Than socially and medically transition. And, 8 years later, after 8 years of transition, 8 years of hormones, I decided to detransition, because I realized that, I can deal with these feelings, without taking on the trans identity. Like, I can deal with these feelings by just, being a regular guy, even though clearly I'm not a regular guy, because most regular guys, don't have an interest in women's clothing and makeup and being feminine. But otherwise, I would say I'm a fairly, masculine person. I'm, at least in terms of my interest and proclivities and mannerisms and, what sort of hobbies and how I carry myself in my thinking process. Like, I'd say I'm a pretty masculine person, but I like to, dabble in femininity. And, what I really wanted to talk about today was sort of a lot of, misunderstandings about autogynephilia, because one of the most common, criticisms is that it's degeneracy, it's perversion.
You can make a strong prediction whether or not a TW trans woman is of AGP based on their sexual orientation. See, I feel like for me, I don't really fit it, because I'm younger and I'm very like, I'm not sexual in general for the most part. So I'm not sure. I never really have been. It's always been kind of a very foreign activity to me in a lot of ways. But hey, I've got all sorts of other stuff going on. So it's like, for someone like me, it's complicated, I guess.
Version, it's, it's like, just this highly,
Sadly, activists of all sorts do claim any non-passing trans women should be AGP. Use it as a derogatory term. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a term that it almost can't not be seen as insulting or degrading, because I don't like being made out that I'm something I'm not. Like, I don't like being made out that I'm a fetishist of any kind, because I just am not that kind of person. And I don't, I wouldn't want to take on a label that's not true of me. So I do understand it. And I think maybe I'm sort of thinking the whole thing would need a bit of a rebrand. Because the thing is, there's plenty of like so-called cis people that don't like being called cis. And it's like, if we can't sell like cis people, like cis to cis people, how the fuck are we selling autogynephilia that means that you have sexy feelings about yourself when you're like, as a woman? How are we going to sell that to trans people? You know what I mean? I think the use of AGP is as an insult is making it harder for people to accept. Yeah, exactly.
Erotic thing, and it's like a kink, and you're sort of, putting your kink on display. So some people are going to watch this video and see me wearing the makeup, and I have like, polish on my nails, etc. And they're going to say like, they'll say, oh, you're involving the public in your kink, or, you're...
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know why people would say that. Schizo is also an insult, but legit label. I mean, I don't know. If you break down what schizophrenia means, is it insulting potentially? Is it making out that they're something that they might feel that they're not? Because of its crazy perception. I'm not sure. I need to think about that more, I think. But I don't know. I think AGP kind of, by the fact that it's about like a paraphilia, that kind of gives it a kind of unique kind of, I don't know, like taint to it or something. for the ears of like most trans people at least. Yeah.
Performing like an act of degeneracy by, bringing this kink into public awareness or whatever. So it's like if you have this, some people would say the only, ethical way or proper way to deal with this is to either one, bury the feelings deep inside you and never, give it.
This is a real word. They have to suck it up, buttercup. Well, I mean, then if we're saying autogynephilia is a real word because it's been coined and that, do we have to suck it up as well? I mean, we sort of do have to because people are going to say it regardless, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Into them whatsoever and just like spend your entire life
in chemistry. Yeah. Fair. I mean, what don't we appropriate?
Repressing these feelings, or to never step outside your house or talk to anyone ever if you do happen to indulge in these feelings. But regardless, I want to clear up a kind of common misconception, which is that just because AGP has an erotic component, it doesn't mean that every instantiation of indulgence in AGP type behavior, it doesn't mean that that instantiation is, sort of full on a sexual act of some sort. So for example, right now I'm wearing makeup, and arguably the ultimate explanation of why I'm wearing makeup today is because I have AGP. And AGP is, defined as, arousal at the thought.
Was he aroused last night when he was in the makeup? Bearing in mind this is from the next day. Was there an arousal there, or what was it?
Of, engaging in feminine things or being a woman or whatever. But, I'm not aroused right now. This is not in any way for me a sort of like way to indulge a kink publicly because I have some sort of like, fetish for public exhibitionism or something like that. Like what I'm doing right now is, in terms of how it feels to me, it is a 100% non-sexual activity. It's just me wearing an aesthetic that...
Does he mean sexual arousal or some kind of... I'm trying to get that, to be honest. I don't think being a fully medicalized transgender person is a fetish. I don't think anyone's saying that, like, generally, to be fair. I think he's saying that it was true of him.
That happens to feel good, but not feel good in a sexual way, but just feel good in the sense that it's positively valenced. Like, if it was felt bad, I wouldn't.
Yeah, because, I mean, what's the... Fuck, so you've got dysphoria and then euphoria, I guess? Gender euphoria, wow. Oh, hi, Woody Red, hope you're good. I don't know why this has to be labeled under AGP, considering what it means, I guess. Like, why would it be a lesser form of arousal? God, I have so many questions. Let's just keep playing.
But just feel good in the sense that it's positively valenced. Like, if it was felt bad, I wouldn't do it. If it felt just neutral, I probably wouldn't do it either. Because
I guess the suggestion is maybe AGP is its own spectrum. I know this is cringe to fucking say. And it's like, at the top, people are like literally can't stop wanking themselves off whenever they put on like a bit of eyeliner. And at the bottom, someone they look more feminine and it makes them like 1% more happy or something. I find it hard to accept bottom surgery plus AGP sexual arousal. Seems self-explanatory. Self-defeating. Well, it depends if they have a thing for like their own dick or something. They might feel more arousal like having a vagina or what most functions and shit is a vagina,
Why would I go out of my way to do something that's just neutral? So in some way I enjoy this, like I like it. But
because what's this different to anyone wearing stuff because they want to look macho or they want to look feminine or whatever? Is everyone on this like sliding scale of like AGP? Like how many other sliding scales are we on,
I 100% only like it in a sexual context. So do I 100% enjoy this only in a sexual way? No. And that's where a lot of the confusion is people don't realize that just because AGP has its causal origins in sexuality, that doesn't mean that every single expression of AGP is a sexual expression, because there's this idea, there's this metaphor with AGP where, it's kind of like, a marriage where, at first, when you first meet someone, it's very, hot and steamy all the time. And then as you sort of normalize that relationship and get used to them, it develops a level of comfort. So it turns from, the erotic to romantic. And that's kind of the metaphor with AGP where, it kind of eventually becomes
more of a romantic thing. Oh yeah, he's just saying it now as well.
Just an aspect of who you are. It's, a way to be comfortable. It's a way to express yourself aesthetically. And in the...
I mean, there's another explanation for sure, I guess. Listen, gender dysphoria does not have like a super like concrete definition at all. So, I don't know. I don't know how recognized gender dysphoria even is as a concept and how nailed down it is. So it's hard to like be super. We need an AMA. Jesus Christ. I mean, anyone can ask me anything. I answer most things. As long as I want to. I'm not oversharing though. Don't worry. Hi, Renault 85. Hey, how you doing?
Cross-dressing community, there's often two sides of this. On the one hand, you have your sort of like people for whom it's purely sexual and it's just a kink. And they, when their AGP feelings arise, they, engage in an...
So if I was to masturbate my constructive vagina, I have AGP? No, I don't think so. Well, I don't see why they couldn't, to be honest. I don't see why that would rule out anyone wanting to masturbate with their neo-vagina, because that might increase it, you know what I mean? That would increase the immersion, you know what I mean? And plenty of people do have ones that work at least somewhat in that whole thing, in that whole sense. It's not like everyone that gets like a vaginoplasty is now like completely unable to have sex or anything. Dump my purse on the table. You don't want me to do that, trust me.
An act of masturbation or something, and then when they orgasm, the feelings immediately vanish and they put all their feminine stuff in the box and put it away, and they often feel deeply shameful about it and guilty, and then they go through these like cycles that correlate with their libido essentially. And for other cross-dressers though, that sort of erotic component sort of fades away, and it's just sort of a feminine side of oneself. It's not to say that there's never a sexual component. It's just that the sexual component is only one aspect of the overall phenomenon of why femininity is so appealing, because eventually it just becomes part of who you are in terms of how you express yourself and the sort of like aesthetic sensibilities that appeal to you. Like for me with women's clothing, I really like the texture. Like women's clothing is so much softer. And like, I don't know if it's like a sensory thing, but it's more comfortable to me. Like when I touch it, it feels better. Like it's just the texture doesn't irritate my skin as much. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, there's something about the softness of the fabric that is like intrinsically more attractive to me. It just feels better on my skin. Not necessarily in a sexual way, but it just, because like even when I was a very young kid.
Oh, thank you, Super. I'm so glad. I don't really want periods though, so I'm actually fine how I am. But thanks anyway.
I used to like hate having scratchy shirts that had the.
This is a very autistic angle, and that is more to say I relate rather than like looking down on him.
Tag in the back that would scratch my neck or whatever. Like it just really bothered me. I didn't like scratchy clothing, and I've never liked.
Yeah, there was a really weird like. Oh, it was that 25 Signs You're Trans thing that I watched a few days ago, and there was something about like, oh, clothes feel all itchy and scratchy. It's like, aren't they made of the same stuff usually? I don't know. I think it's I don't want to say placebo effect. I kind of mean the opposite in a way. But you think it's true to such an extent that putting a clothes on that was made for a man and was bought in the men's department is gonna like make you feel weird. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. What the word for it is.
Rough textures in my clothing, and I think
Majority of trans women globally do not get or want bottom surgery. Yeah, not everyone wants it. Obviously, I don't know what the numbers would look like in this country, certainly, if more people were getting through the system, I guess, because there's such long waits now. But plenty of people don't want it. And, personally I did, so I got it.
Looking back and trying to introspect on this, like that texture issue is probably one of the, foundational elements of why this whole thing, developed in the first place. So yeah, that is one of the main things I wanted to comment on.
I mean, I just wear stuff that's comfortable. I can't be asked trying to dress up or anything. It's not my thing anyway.
Was, sort of how the expression of AGP is not like this, degenerate act of perversion. Maybe it is for some people, but not always. And that's the sort of thing where there's such a lack of nuance in this discourse, where people just want to paint these broad brushstrokes and generalize and think in very black and white terms, oh, you're either this crazy pervert or you're a normal good person. And there's so much shades of gray in between those things, where people think that just because sexuality is at the root of something, it doesn't.
Megarat, I think I get what you're saying. And it's hard for me. I can't sit here and be like, oh, that's dumb. That's definitely wrong. This is stupid or whatever. Because it's not like that. I mean, I think that he's describing a lot of things that I can relate to, but I don't relate to the more kind of concrete descriptions of it. And I think he'd have a much better job. He'd have a much better time rebranding it a little. And it's quite an uneven thing as well, when you've got AGP and then you've got HSTS. So on one side you've got homosexuals, on the other side you've got people who fetishize themselves as women. There's a clear branding issue, and I think we can get kind of autistic about what we're actually saying and stuff. I don't think the label would be widespread, because people need to want to take it on, if that makes sense. And that sucks, because it shouldn't be about people what people want. It should be about what people are. But unfortunately, I don't know, we're far too deep into this fucking labels on labels on labels fucking society. So I guess that's just how it has to be.
That doesn't mean that it explains the entire phenomenon. It doesn't explain every behavior.
Oh, I heard about the gay straight alliance recently. Maybe it was the Peter Tatchell video. I heard something about it that I remember now, but
every thought, every feeling, every desire, the causal origins of something are just that. They're the causal origin.
Yeah, I think we're probably on a similar kind of level in that case, because for me it's AGP definitely exists, and pretending it's not is pointless. You don't have to identify with it yourself. It is what it is. But at the same time, the typology stuff is where it kind of loses me, because I just think there's an awful lot of so-called trans lesbians out there who probably aren't that well described by AGP, and there's probably homosexual transsexuals who don't really fit the model. And I think with stuff like this, it's okay if the model doesn't literally include literally everybody, but how many people are we excluding before it starts to be, this is just kind of inaccurate? You know what I mean? So I think maybe he's done stuff about the typology as well. But I don't know, he's very informative, and I appreciate the way he presents it. I do think this is a good video, you know. Have I ever been porn sick? No. I have gone through phases of like watching porn, i.e. mostly when I had testosterone still. But I don't know, I was never like pathological about it. I've really not seen very much porn in my lifetime, and I haven't watched it in a long time.
But they don't explain the entirety of the phenomenon. So that was the main thing I wanted to communicate. And, you know, there's so much more to be said about.
Yeah. I think the immersion angle would be why you'd be an AGP and want to get a vaginoplasty, which not everyone's going to want to. Plenty of them are going to still want to be able to have sex with women or whatever equivalent they can get. I don't know.
About this topic.
You know, the traditional way, like sticking it in rather than like, because a cis woman and a transgender woman together, the transgender woman having had surgery, like it's more functionally like a lesbian like sexual relationship, really. My favorite thing would just be more research in the issue. Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, it's always going to be stigmatized now. Like the trans community, once they decide they don't like something, it's like that's it. And it gets really annoying when they start giving you shit for saying things like TRA, when it's like, I'm trying to find a way of making sure the crazy, like, radical people are being separated from just trans people, plenty of whom are not, like, crazy or radical, and I shouldn't be lumping them in, you know? So it's kind of, you know, but it's all about smoke and mirrors, I guess. They don't want you to identify them as anything, because then you'll be able to talk about them easier.
It's obviously very, very, very controversial. You know, people will straight up get canceled for talking about this. You know, they'll say you're transphobic and all this stuff, and you know, but
well, I prefer saying you're anti-trans special. Again,
I'm not necessarily getting into the politics of whether this theory is like true for all trans women or trans people,
autofellatio dreams. I used to get those as well. Jeez, I hope I'm not going to get like banned off of YouTube and or whatever. Excuse me. Whenever I had them though, it was like, whenever I had them though, it was like disappointing as fuck every time. It like just felt like nothing. And I was like, I'd wake up and be like, oh, that was shit. Maybe I won't get my ribs taken out. You know what I'm saying?
But it's true for me. Like when I read about this theory, and and I particularly want to recommend Phil Illy's book Auto-Heterosexuality. It's a very good book. Really like him and his work on this topic to sort of like destigmatize.
It could be like a trace of like autosexuality for sure. I don't know. I probably have like tried to look at myself in like a sexy kind of way when I was a lot younger, and it just didn't work really. Like, I never really had that kind of feelings looking at myself. Not getting laid. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I broadly agree when people say that like watching too much porn is not good for you, especially if you're not like fucking people. I don't get them anymore, but I haven't had anything down there for like 7 years, so yeah.
This because I think it really just needs to be destigmatized, and that's why I'm talking about it. Like, so yeah, I just wanted to further contribute to the destigmatization of this topic, and that's sort of the whole purpose of this channel, is to sort of destigmatize femininity in males, to talk about detransition males, and how we can sort of for
I would like to learn about and understand my disorder and be able to discuss it, but it's all identity now, and my experience isn't talked about or appreciated in the conversation. I feel exactly the same way. I felt like over the years when I was trying to like socialize more with trans people and understand myself better, I'd be faced with an awful lot of people who had a completely different like model of how this shit worked, which was the only acceptable one after a while. And it's kind of, you're risking alienating a lot of people when you're pushing a very specific model, that being like identity. It's not anywhere near as inclusive as people make it out it is, unfortunately.
For those of us detransitioners who are AGP, how to sort of deal with these feelings
Yeah, Renoa, it's the VOD. I thought it was me for a while because I live quite close to an airport, I think. But like, yeah, I was taking my headphones off earlier. Like, what the fuck is that?
In a way that's healthy. Yeah, so that's the video. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I won't watch too much, but I'll see what he said about the video I just watched. Did you know what's really like irritating for me personally? Is that one of the problems I have is just that most of the pro-trans arguments just aren't very good. So it's like someone will come out with these kind of ideas and stuff, and the way that trans people are showing it up, it's completely different, and it's like nothing to do with what they're saying, and it's just, it's a bit ridiculous. It's like, if there's no good arguments against this kind of shit, then like, what are we even doing? And why are so many of us like so against this like autogynephilia thing, I guess? But let's see what this person says about this person, because watching his video and then this amethysta person just before it, it doesn't feel like they were even remotely talking about the same thing, you know what I mean?
Going to be reacting to this video from Amethysta Herrick, the gender professor. The title of the video is called "The Autogynephilia." So, of course, they have a strong social motivation to deny the theory of autogynephilia, which runs. Let me watch.
He's already, I don't know if he pre-watches stuff, but he's kind of spoiled it already. It is very much like that. It's very ideological and not really not very scientific, which is often the case with trans arguments, unfortunately.
The video and then I'll do a reaction as I go along. Okay, so let's watch this.
Hi, kitty cats. It's time to address one of the more ludicrous explanations.
No, I'm sorry, it's gonna make me wince every time. Like, how old is this person? It's just a bit weird. Like, just this like infantilized stuff all the time. I want to get away from that as far as I can. And like, I don't know. I've never been like that anyway, but like seeing other people being like that, it's just kind of making me like want to even like more further fucking hard correct in the other direction. Like, Jesus Christ.
For the transgender experience that is still undermining the validity of transgender identities.
It's actually not undermining the validity of transgender identity. When Ray Blanchard came up with this idea.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, he mentioned that in the video before, and it's like, you know, I agree with what he's saying. Like, it doesn't at all. But like, is that, like, why would that be? I don't know. If you repeat a lie often enough, I guess some people believe it, but fucking, I don't know.
I'm talking about autogynephilia. Autogynephilia is a concept originally developed by Ray Blanchard in the 1980s to attempt to explain trans
orientation such that.
Oh, this person is Ray Alex Williams, who we've been watching, and this is someone we watched earlier called Amethysta. But this person was criticized by, well, it wasn't criticized by this person. This person is criticizing the theory that this person like pushes. You know, I always want to be like, you know, whatever makes you happy and stuff, but I always get weird feelings from like, you know, these older people doing the kind of ooh kind of stuff. It's a bit ugh. We say someone got surgery to look black and they have a fight with a black person. You say it's close to black on black crime. I don't know how you'd kind of square that really, because I would still not hit a woman despite having had like my stuff removed and all that. I think, I don't know, like if you compared it to like, would it be black on black sex maybe? But I don't know, maybe it would be at that point. Like if someone's dark enough, like they probably would fool some people who prefer like black guys or something. Yeah, you know what I mean though. Like, I don't know, I don't always have the word like handy. Like the infantilized stuff, the like neon stuff, like a lot of it really grosses me out. I mean, anyone who's seen Lily Tino like will understand why, because it's just fucking creepy.
the trans women who are exclusively attracted to men have always been exclusively attracted to men. They just, so, and in another life, they would have grown up to be, highly effeminate,
Also, the ROGD thing being more of a female thing, that does make sense to me. I mean, considering how things have like switched in terms of like the demographic. But I need to look more into that as well, and probably like in another stream, because I'm pretty much just going to be on AGP today, I think.
Homosexual men, those sorts of trans women just expressed their presentation very differently. Their transsexuality manifested very, very differently than someone like this person, Amethysta, who
just having that on the once you've learned a bit about like W path, it's just like, Jesus Christ, this is literally like the height of appealing to authority, and the authority is just, oh, it's actually just us. You know what I mean? Cooked.
Who transitioned late in life, did not display natural innate effeminacy in childhood, otherwise had a pretty much normal masculine, boyhood and childhood, and grew up.
Like, there must be some kind of joke in there where someone's like, well, I think this, and then the other person's like, oh wait, no, it can't be that. Listen, even W path have said like that's wrong, and then the other person's like, all right, fair enough, I guess I'll ask W path. So they go ask W path, and it's just the same fucking person. Lily Tino creeps you out. Yeah, I think basically everyone is creeped out by Lily Tino. Like, maybe there's some people that genuinely support her. Fair enough. I don't wish anyone harm, but I'm not a fan, like, at all. And I don't like people talking about all, like, the trans surgery and stuff in a really childish way around fucking kids, most likely, with, like, the fucking food and stuff. It's just disgusting. Like, thankfully, I have something called misophonia, so thankfully I wouldn't be able to stand most of her videos anyway, because there's like, she eats at restaurants and stuff, and I don't need that in my life,
A very masculine career. So this is a general pattern of observation that, generally transsexual women fall into these two clusters. And the trans women who fall into the latter cluster, who did not show natural effeminacy in childhood.
Because that's the thing, I did, like, is it like super inflexible, I guess? Because I was like kind of not super feminine, but as I got older in my teens, I became more so. I got called gay like fucking constantly. And I wasn't even gay. And like, I guess I transitioned relatively early. So I feel like I already like fit in between the two. And it's like, well, if I have a choice, I'm kind of stuck either way, because I'm literally not a homosexual in the term that it's being used. But I don't really like being referred to as like AGP, because I don't feel like it's accurate to me. I'm not sure. But that's where we get into it. It's more the typology that I question rather than the actual thing. I think the actual thing exists.
The key difference is that they often report a history of arousal associated with cross-gender fantasy, whereas in the homosexual type, they do not show that history of arousal associated with, putting on stockings or wearing panties or whatever, which is very common in the autogynephilic type, or being aroused by the mere thought of being female,
as well as being condemned by W path.
W path is an activist organization and should not be taken seriously insofar. Yeah, I mean, it's.
Wait, see, he gets it. See, it's catching on. Listen, my only goal in life is to fucking slander W path as much as I can. I'm joking, it really isn't. But if I can do it, then great.
All this stuff coming out about the W path,
and I will platform the fuck out of anyone fucking shitting on them. Also, hell yeah.
Files and the cast review showing the ideological evidence laundering, and sort of it is definitely a political activist group. It used to be more of a scientific organization, but it's got overrun by political activists.
The World Professional Association for Transgender Health, autogynephilia still appears in the DSM-5 as a specifier to psychiatric
because it's based in reality, observation of reality.
Orders. And as a result, autogynephilia still represents a weapon.
It was never intended to be a weapon. It was intended to be a neutral, descriptive, scientific hypothesis in order to classify a observed behavioral manifestation of two distinct clusters of, transgender women seeking, transsexual philosopher and scientist. It's just totally wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I really wanted to get, like the definition, because it felt fucking insane to me. And I didn't really have the words as to like, why.
Is the love of an object.
No, that's false. Philia just means love. It's not love of an object. It can be love of.
Yeah, love of an object. And then she puts it on like the genitalia, which is a really weird way of putting it. Like, this is like, I feel like watching this and then watching his video about it, like, it's just two completely different things. And that shouldn't be the case. Like, anyone on either side of an argument should still be able to explain a concept that seems to come from the other side. I don't see what's wrong with that. But we have to seed it with all this like political shit and like tell people how to think without telling them how to think, which I really hate. And they call themselves professors and stuff. Like, it's kind of scary to me, and it's like sinister to me. It's the same with WPATH. It's just a way of like getting more authority onto your words when what you're saying is like completely captured by an ideology. And like, the difference I can hear between these two people is that I don't think Ray Alex Williams seems to be captured by an ideology. Like, he's very, very honest. And so I can kind of disagree with parts here and there. And I'm not just feeling like, oh, I'm just hearing these talking points again, because it's you know, someone just expressing their opinions, which I'd love to feel like more trans content is like that. But so much of it feels very politicized and very narrative driven. And like, I don't want to hear the same narrative over and over. Like, that's boring to me. And that suggests that actually we're not being ourselves at all. But hey.
Of a human. You know, like brotherly love of humans, like, you know, so it has nothing to do with.
You should consider liking the stream, maybe subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch. Yay. I also have in the description, you can check out ways to support the channel, including I sell music. You can buy my music. Anyway.
Loving an object. So already this person who styles themselves a philosopher and scientist is just totally wrong.
I think he, in the last video, was suggesting that it probably can be quite debilitating. I guess anything, if it's pathological enough, could be. I'm not sure. Again, it's going to be a bit difficult for me where I don't feel like I have that kind of experience particularly. Or my experience feels very much like a mix of the two, which is kind of... like, it kind of, I don't know, it stands to reason that I'd end up there, I guess.
Gyna?
Listen, I don't know if Marmite is common in any of the countries you live in. It's one of those things that supposedly everyone loves or hates. I'm like, with Marmite, I think it's okay. I don't love it, but I don't dislike it either. I'm one of those people. It just is how it happens, right?
Person who styles themselves a philosopher and scientist is just totally wrong.
Gyna is pertaining to the female reproductive system.
No, that's also false.
Yeah, because like, I guess in a medical sense, like gynecology. But like misogyny has gyne in it as well. And that doesn't mean hatred of women's fucking reproductive systems, right? Surely? I don't know. This is what happens. You get these shitty arguments and it's like it's trying to drag your brain down to their level. And it's really irritating.
Gyna refers to women. And so it's love of oneself as a woman. It's not specifically related to the female reproductive system. It's about the totality of being a woman, including, you know, behavioral and interpersonal and social, and like clothing and dress. It's way more than just the reproductive system. So this person, despite styling themselves as this gender professor, can't even do the minimum of research to care.
Yeah, gender professor. He's seeing what I'm seeing. I'm so glad. Listen, I understand like why React content is like corny to a lot of people, but to me sometimes knowing that I'm not going insane hearing this shit is like helpful. I don't know. But yeah, like it's just such obvious like propaganda, and I don't want to be watching these trans videos and be like, this is just obvious propaganda again and again and again, because I don't want to listen to someone and assume that kind of thing the way people do to me constantly. But when it just is obvious propaganda, it's like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. We'll watch a bit more so we get like the whole description, but we don't need to watch too much more of this. I mean, this is quite a simple video to get your head around once you understand the way these kind of people talk, you know?
Characterize the theory accurately. It's so ridiculous.
And auto means applying something to oneself. So the meaning.
So she got 1 out of 3 right, surely. Let's give her a bit of credit. Come on. You know, she's got dyed hair. You can't expect too much from her. I'm joking. Sorry. Please don't send your goons after me.
Of the word autogynephilia is a love so great for the female reproductive system, a person wants one for themselves.
Yeah, see, that description is like insane. No one calls it that. And the only reason she can get away with calling it that is because of the kind of audience she has and the kind of people that believe the same thing that she does. They'll believe anything as long as it's like put in a negative way, in a weird way that doesn't actually make any sense. Like, that's the whole point. Is meant to sound like retarded, right?
No, that's not true. If you actually read the research, gender professor, you would know that Larry Blanchard distinguished between different subtypes of autogynephilia. For example, there's sartorial, there's transvestic, focusing on the clothes and more superficial trappings of femininity. And there's, behavioral, wanting to be treated as if one is a woman, particularly in a sexual dimension. There's and then there is anatomic, which is focused on, love of a vagina so great that you want a vagina yourself, and breast and all these things. And there's also physiological, wanting to, menstruate and lactate and all these things. So it's way more complicated than just like, oh, it's just like,
I'll say something. If I am some kind of AGP, I don't have any desire to menstruate or lactate. The only reason why I may have felt like some sort of like general desire to was because I'd rather have been born female. Like, I don't want to try and do that as like a male. Like, no, thank you.
Love of the reproductive system. This person can't even do the minimum of research. It's
Besides, all you got to do if you're trans and you're post-op is like freeze. Who was it telling me about this? I think it was Nomad. Freezing like tomato soup into a popsicle and like putting it up there. Like, I can just do that. Like, none of you will ever know I'm totally a real woman. Oh my God. Do I sell any physical media? I do not. I have an album and I have the same album but on Spotify, if you prefer that medium. I've never had enough of an audience to do like merch or like CDs or whatever, but do people still buy CDs? I don't know.
It's ridiculous. And they're styling themselves a gender expert. It's crazy.
Here's the thing. Music is like the worst thing to try and make money off of. Like, just don't bother. Enjoy it. Do it as a hobby. Do it as some way to like express yourself and have fun like performing. But like, yeah, it's not sustainable. Like, no one buys it anymore. And stuff like CDs and stuff, that ship is like come and gone at this point. I don't even know what people buy stuff on anymore.
This concept immediately reduces transgender identity to physical structure alone.
No, it doesn't. It's just that's like a totally false, a complete misrepresentation.
It's just like feminist babble, right? It's just, what's the word for it? Just like throwing out buzzwords and jargon, throwing out like feminist ideas and just stating them. This is a reason this is bad. And it's like, how so? Oh, wait, no, they're on the next sentence already. Shit. Like, yeah, this is like, I hope people are starting to understand what I'm talking about when I talk about these fucking professors and like psychiatrists and stuff like that, like Dr. Jamie and shit like that. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. These people say like so much bunk shit and they've got this like air of authority. Like, they're often a bit older. They're often, you've got all these websites and stuff like that. And, which thinking about, maybe I should see what she offers. I watched someone called Dr. Zed a couple of times. And that just very much feels like trying to get people onto her thing, onto her website to like look at courses and, buy shit. For someone like that, the more people that start thinking about this gender shit and the more people that start applying it to themselves, the better. Because that's like, these are potential clients, you know what I mean? Homosexuals probably serve a role in nature, like helping with the family. Oof. Anyway, also this was the sex and gender thing. I don't know if I want to watch that today. I still want to talk more about AGP, but I can try and watch that sometime. Because where was the Does she have a website? She might not. Listen, maybe I've lumped her in with someone a bit different, but having a tracks release was a complete waste of my time. Give it away to share now. Fair enough, yeah. Like, does she have a writing and podcast? A website I found to discuss identity and gender freely. You know what's bizarre is that's exactly why I fucking started this channel, was to be able to talk about these things freely and not like lose literally every one of my friends over it. Yeah, I don't know. This person is she's here. What else have we got? Oh, it's Ko-fi rather than Patreon. Those are the two. Some people have both, to be honest with you. You've got both of those. You've got a Ko-fi, you've got a Patreon, you have the other one. I don't know. Fuck it, what was it? Patreon, Ko-fi, Streamlabs. There you go. What has happened? Does this not like me looking at this? Bought a can of wet food. I'm gonna assume that this is for their pet and not for them, but it's kind of funny to think that maybe it's them. I don't think they make huge amounts of money on here, but I mean, it's quite a small channel. That makes sense, I guess. But yeah, there we go. They have a Ko-fi. Gender Identity Today, so that's the website. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit terrifying seeing people sort of put themselves out there the way that they do, which admittedly I'm doing as well. I'm critiquing stuff. I'm suggesting a different way of thinking about things. And, you know, I think the difference there is I'm just some idiot sitting in front of a webcam who doesn't pretend to be anything but, really. This person is like, you know, what is it? Where is it? Oh, well, we've got, I mean, this is the appeal to authority right here. Is it showing? Not very much. Let's do one of those. So here's the appeal to authority right here. I don't want to say this means nothing to me, but ultimately when people are saying things that are so incorrect and they've got all this like experience and shit like that, it suggests that this kind of education and experience alone isn't enough, if that makes sense. But yeah, so that's the website. Is there an about? Oh, okay. The guy I follow on Bandcamp has CDs, vinyl, and cassettes. Oh wow, that's crazy. I mean, listen, if there's a market for that kind of thing still, then fair enough. I mean, we had cassettes when I was like, when I was in single digits, you know, like in the 90s, and that was about it. I still use CDs because of my car, because like CD players in cars are now kind of annoying because you can't just stick a thing in there. Gender identity must be considered today. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know, you see a million things like this. Tucker Lieberman, I don't know who that is. There's a few different people. Lilith Hellstrom. Cisgender. There's a Lilith fucking Hellstrom and she's cisgender. That feels like upside down world. Lilith Hellstrom. That's the most trans name I've ever heard, but hey, fair enough. I should change my name to Lilith. I've been thinking of doing that. Would I take callers? If someone wants to call in, they can, of course. The only thing I'd really say is like, speak to me on Discord quick first or something like that. Send me a message or something. I don't know what like socials you use, but like, I don't know. As long as I have a vague idea what we're talking about and stuff like that, then that's fine. The only thing I don't want is like people just jumping in and starting talking shit when I'm in the middle of something, because whenever I see like other streamers and like someone just randomly shows up, it just kind of interrupts more than anything. But like call-ins is fine. Just let me know. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I've been looking at this this thing and saying nothing. That's that person, Amethysta, Herrick, gender professor. So yeah, I'm very cynical, obviously, but hey,